There is a number that came out this year that stopped me completely. 55%. More than half of all Americans, not struggling families, not people in poverty, but ordinary working Americans, say their financial situation is actively getting worse, not staying the same, getting worse. And when I first saw that number, I thought what most people think. Inflation, high interest rates, a tough economy. Those are the obvious answers. Those are the answers every news channel will give you. But here is what nobody is telling you. Those are not the real reasons. They are symptoms. And if you spend your entire financial life treating symptoms without understanding the actual disease, you will be in that 55% for the rest of your life. In the next 16 minutes, I'm going to show you the 4 real reasons Americans are falling behind financially in 2026. Not the reasons politicians talk about, not the reasons banks advertise around. The actual structural reasons, backed by data, that explain exactly why your money feels like it is disappearing even when you are doing everything right. And more importantly, I'm going to show you what the small percentage of Americans who are actually getting ahead are doing differently. Because they exist. And their behavior is completely predictable and completely copyable. If you found this channel for the first time today, subscribe right now. Every single week, I break down the real mechanics of money using the same principles that Warren Buffett has used for 60 years, explained in plain English with zero jargon and zero fluff. The people who subscribe and actually apply what they learn here will not be in that 55% 5 years from now. That is not a promise, that is math. Let us start with the first real reason, and I want you to hear this clearly because it will probably make you uncomfortable. The first reason 55% of Americans are getting worse financially is not that they are spending too much on coffee. It is not avocado toast. It is not any of the small things that financial influencers love to attack because they make easy content. The real reason is something called lifestyle debt creep, and it operates so slowly and so invisibly that most people never notice it until it has already swallowed their entire financial future. Here is how it works. You get a raise at work, 3%, maybe 5% if you had a good year, and almost immediately, within weeks, sometimes days, your spending rises to match or exceed that raise. A slightly nicer apartment, a car upgrade, a few more subscriptions, eating out an extra time per week. None of these feel like big decisions. Each one feels completely reasonable in isolation. But here is what the math shows. The average American household income has risen by roughly 18% over the last 4 years when adjusted for inflation. And the average American household debt has risen by 22% over that same period. Read that again. Income went up 18%. Debt went up 22%. Americans are earning more and falling further behind at the same time. That is not an economic problem. That is a behavioral one. Warren Buffett understood this pattern before most economists had a name for it. He said something that I think about constantly. He said that the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. Not to life, not to enjoyment, but to the unconscious expansion of lifestyle that happens every time income increases. The people who are getting ahead financially are not earning dramatically more than everyone else. They are simply not allowing their spending to automatically expand every time their income does. They treat every raise as an investment opportunity before they treat it as a spending opportunity. That one behavioral difference, compounded over 10 years, is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The second real reason is what economists call the subscription trap, and in 2026 it has reached a level that would have been unimaginable even 10 years ago. The average American household is currently paying for 23 active subscriptions every single month. 23. Streaming services, software tools, gym memberships, meal kit deliveries, cloud storage, apps, premium tiers, annual memberships that auto-renew. The average total monthly cost of these subscriptions is $419 per month. $419 every single month for things that most households use partially, occasionally, or not at all. Here is the number that makes this genuinely alarming. When researchers asked Americans to estimate their monthly subscription spending, the average guess was $86. The actual average is $419. Americans are underestimating their subscription spending by nearly 500%. This is not an accident. The subscription economy was specifically engineered to be invisible. Monthly charges small enough to feel trivial, annual renewals timed to be forgotten, free trials that convert automatically, cancellation processes designed to be frustrating enough that people give up. Warren Buffett has a framework he applies to every business he evaluates. He asks one question: does this business have pricing power? Meaning, can it raise prices without losing customers? And the reason subscription businesses have become the most valuable businesses in the world is precisely because they have figured out how to generate revenue from customers who have forgotten they are paying. You are not a customer of these services, you are the product. And the $419 disappearing from your account every month is the price of not paying attention. The third reason is the one that financial channels almost never talk about because it is the most uncomfortable truth in personal finance. It is the car. The average American car payment in 2026 is $735 per month. $735, on top of which the average American pays approximately $200 per month in auto insurance, another $150 in gas, and roughly $80 in maintenance and registration. Total average monthly transportation cost for one vehicle, $1,165 per month. That is $14,000 per year, to get from one place to another. And here is the number that should genuinely alarm you. If instead of spending that $14,000 per year on a depreciating vehicle, you invested it at an 8% annual return, which is a conservative estimate for a basic S&P 500 index fund, the exact type of investment Warren Buffett recommends to ordinary investors by name. After 20 years, you would have $680,000. $680,000 from redirecting your car spending into investments. The average American will own 12 to 15 cars in their lifetime, each one financed, each one depreciating the moment it leaves the lot, each one consuming a massive percentage of their lifetime income for the privilege of sitting in traffic. Warren Buffett drove a 2006 Cadillac DTS for years, the third richest person in the world, driving a car that most Americans would consider embarrassingly modest, not because he could not afford something better, because he understood the opportunity cost of every dollar spent on depreciation. The people getting ahead financially in 2026 are not driving beaters and suffering, but they are almost universally driving vehicles that cost significantly less than they could technically afford, and they are investing the difference. The fourth reason is the most systemic and the most important, and it is the reason that even people who fix reasons 1 through 3 often still feel like they are falling behind. It is the interest rate gap. Right now, in 2026, the average American credit card interest rate is 28.6%. 28.6%, the highest it has been in recorded American financial history. At the same time, the average high-yield savings account is paying between 4 and 5%. The stock market has historically returned an average of 8 to 10% annually over long periods. Here is what the interest rate gap means in plain terms. If you are carrying the average American credit card balance of $6,200 at 28.6% interest, you are paying approximately $1,772 per year in interest alone, nearly $1,800 per year, for the privilege of having spent money you did not have. Meanwhile, that same money invested at 8% would earn you $496 per year. The gap between those two numbers, $1,800 lost versus $500 gained, is $2,300 per year, every year, automatically, without you making a single additional decision. Compounded over 10 years at those rates, the difference between carrying credit card debt and investing that same money is not $2,300. It is over $40,000 from one decision made once about whether to carry a balance. Warren Buffett has said more about debt and leverage than almost any other topic in his career. He said that you cannot get rich if you are paying 28% to borrow money. Not because the math does not eventually work in your favor, because it never works in your favor at that rate, ever, under any circumstances, period. The people who are in the 45%, the Americans whose finances are getting better, are almost universally carrying zero high-interest debt. Not because they are perfect, not because they never made mistakes, but because at some point they understood that paying 28% in interest is not a financial inconvenience. It is a financial emergency. Now I want to tell you something that I think is genuinely important before I give you the practical steps. Because I have laid out 4 reasons, and they can feel overwhelming when you hear them together. Lifestyle debt creep, the subscription trap, transportation costs, the interest rate gap. And the temptation, when you hear 4 things at once, is to feel like you need to fix all 4 at the same time. That is wrong. That approach fails almost every time, because it requires sustained willpower across too many areas simultaneously. And willpower is a finite resource. The approach that actually works, the approach that Warren Buffett has used in business for 6 decades, is sequential. Fix one thing completely before you touch the next one. So here is the exact sequence. This week, today if possible, you do one thing only. You audit your subscriptions. Go to your bank and credit card statements. Pull up the last 3 months. Write down every recurring charge, every single one. Cancel anything you have not used in the last 30 days. Not paused, canceled. This takes 45 minutes, and for the average American, it frees up between $100 and $200 per month immediately. Next week, you calculate your real transportation cost, every dollar, insurance, gas, payment, maintenance. Write the number down. You do not have to do anything about it yet, but you need to know the actual number, because most people have never calculated it, and the shock of seeing it is itself motivating. The week after that, you pull your credit card balances and interest rates. List them from highest rate to lowest. You are going to pay minimum on everything except the highest rate card. Every extra dollar goes to the highest rate card first. This is not clever, this is not a secret. But almost nobody does it consistently, and the mathematical impact is enormous. And the week after that, you write down every raise, bonus, or income increase you receive from this point forward. And you commit, before you spend any of it, that 50% goes directly to debt elimination or investment. Not 49%, 50%. Before it hits your checking account, if possible. None of these steps are comfortable, but none of them are complicated. The reason 55% of Americans are getting worse financially is not that the steps are hard to understand. It is that they require doing something different from what everyone around you is doing. And doing something different is socially uncomfortable in a way that is genuinely difficult to underestimate. But here is the thing about that 55% number. It means 45% of Americans are getting better, right now, in the same economy, with the same interest rates, with the same inflation. 45% are moving in the right direction. The only difference between those two groups is not income. It is not luck. It is not background. It is a series of small behavioral decisions made consistently over time. You are watching this video. That already puts you in a different category from the people who are not paying attention. The question is whether you are going to do something with what you just learned, or close this tab and go back to whatever you were doing before. The 45% are not smarter than the 55%. They are just more honest with themselves about where their money is actually going. Subscribe if this gave you something real to think about, and drop a comment below with the one thing from this video that hit closest to home. Was it subscriptions? The car number? The interest rate gap? Tell me below, because your answer tells me exactly where to go next.